you have a story and you're in the middle of your story. And where you are in the story and how far and how fast you're going in the story is all part of that story. And if it was anything else, it would be someone else's story.
Welcome to the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast, a peek behind the curtain of some of the most intimate conversations that people have with Ezra as an intimacy coach. Join us for a session already in progress.
Yeah, and today we're going to do a little bit of interview and a little bit of coaching. So I'm really excited about that.
Perfect. We love coaching.
Yeah.
Both giving and receiving.
Yeah.
We do both.
I like that. I like somebody who gives and receives.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
It's just a little innuendo to start the show.
I got it.
I'm on the spectrum, so I feel like I need to explain jokes, just in case you didn't realize that was supposed to be about sex.
You like the juicy stuff. We get it. We like the juicy stuff too.
So
Fantastic.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, well, let's start first and we'll learn a little bit about y'all and what you do. So you guys call yourself the Soulmate Coaches, is that right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Among other things, yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what is a soulmate to you?
So a soulmate is, on one level, it's like the ultimate partnership. It's like when you've got a relationship that's the best you've ever had, we would call that the soulmate level. So some people might define it technically as soulmates, and we could get into that or not, but it's just so juicy, so authentic, so raw, so honoring, acknowledging. It's just totally fulfilling, and it doesn't have things like compromise or sacrifice. It's like I get to be all of me, Lynetta gets to be all of her. Together, we create this amazing oneness of what we do in the world, and there's no downsides to it. No. It's just the best relationship we've ever had, and we've had a bunch of previous relationships. So soulmate's kind of like the vernacular for the ultimate relationship, and that's why we use it.
No pressure.
Yeah, I'd say we have many soulmates. I don't think it's just,
if you want to deal on that level, we have many, and we could talk about soulmates on the spiritual level, but we're using it here just more to be just an awesome relationship, and we want everybody to have the best relationship possible that they desire. That's
sure.
Really our goal.
And it's also acknowledging that we are a soul, not just a bodysuit. Right.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting because I remember when we first spoke, I was hesitant because the idea of one true partner really doesn't resonate with me.
Right.
And so I was concerned that was going to be in conflict, and it isn't. I mean, it sounds like you could have a soulmate and be polyamorous. You could have a soulmate for a season.
Yeah. If you want to actually talk about the soul level just for a moment, it's like we have soul friends, like a soul group that we kind of travel through incarnations through. And some of them become, if you want to call it, romantic partners, and some don't. So it's like we have a whole group of souls that we're buddies with. So a soulmate's just kind of like a subset of that group.
Awesome. And what brought you to coaching?
When I found out that coaching was, before I had gone to therapy, talk therapy, and I didn't find it very useful, and then when I found out about what life coaching is, that it's the agenda of the person and you're really helping them from where they are and help them to get where they're going. So it was like, oh, I'm not just going to sit here and talk and repeat myself in circles and, spin my wheels like I was in therapy. And coaching, I was moving forward. And, I get there's a place for therapy, but, for me, if I wanted to to continue to grow and evolve and accomplish great things in this world, I needed the coaching. And I loved that coaching is always the agenda of the person who's being coached. So it's not my agenda. It's the person who's being coached. It's their big agenda that we're really holding that.
Yeah, absolutely. The client leads.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so go ahead.
Yeah. And when we coach somebody, Lynn and I, we usually coach together, and we're really awesome. And I'll often start off, and what I start off with is just questions. I'll intuitively get questions to ask them about what's going on. And just by listening really closely, I'll get like a certain direction to go in and ask more detailed directions. And we'll kind of make distinctions to separate things out, which is what most people get disempowered about. They kind of glom a bunch of things together and don't know, oh, it's really about this aspect and not about that aspect. And then, so I might do some more, mind level stuff, some thought, belief stuff. And then Lynetta will often jump in and she'll start doing more emotional coaching or energetic coaching. And it works really well that we, both get to bring our talents to the work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Tell me about the 4 steps of, what was it? The 4 steps to success, or 4 steps of
4 steps to anything.
To anything. Yeah. Okay.
4 steps to love is what we focus on when we're working with people on relationships. And first, we want to identify what's the problem, what's the issue,
what's in the way,
mm-hmm. and get to the root cause of it.
Yeah.
Because whatever is being triggered right now in this moment, it's from, if you trace it back, it's going to lead to somewhere when the story first began, the seed began of this issue. You got to go back to that. Otherwise, you're just cutting the weed off at the top and it's going to grow right back.
Right. So to give an example, a lot of people, well, all of us have limiting beliefs, including about relationships. Like a simple one might be, all men are blah, 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 or all women are blah, 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 whatever that is. Mm-hmm. And that, as Linda said, can almost always be traced back to childhood, particularly our biological family, parents, siblings. And if that's still operating, you're not going to be able to manifest an amazing relationship. Mm-hmm. So we'll identify, let's say, a limiting belief, mm-hmm. and trace it back. And then we'll use some clearing techniques to get that out of the picture, so it's no longer operating in our energetic space.
One of our best tools is acknowledgments, really acknowledging that you did the best you could with what tools you had, which were very little for a child to come up with your own mm-hmm. tools, but you survived. You're here. So we acknowledge, hey, you did a good job. You did a really good job.
And you didn't do anything wrong. You didn't do no matter what you did. Yeah. So we kind of get people to that neutral space. We clear out all this stuff from the past, get somebody to that neutral space where the past isn't operating. And then you really say, well, what do you want going forward? And we'll often use the past. We'll look at all the things you didn't like, let's say about how you were treated as a child or young adults, and use that to create what you do want to have in your life. You make your list, so to speak, and then we help you manifest that. Because the moment you declare, oh, I didn't like being treated this way, like without respect, I want to be respected. Mm-hmm. So then it's like, the moment you decide, oh, here's how I want to be treated, here's how I want my next relationship to be, then voices may pop up and say, oh, but who are you to call that in? You don't deserve it. You're not worthy, whatever the voices are. And then you have to clear those secondaries out of the way so that then you can really just manifest without anything interfering.
Yeah. And what you're talking about is clarifying, what you just did was you're clarifying what you want and what you don't want going forward. And then the manifesting is the natural next step.
As you clear all the blocks 2, you're clarifying.
Yeah. Okay. And I think I heard the 4 steps in the mix in there, but just for sake of clarity, which was it? What was it?
Identify, clear, clarify, and manifest.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's get into it. Let's as you might
juicy.
say,
Yes.
what's in the way? The juicy stuff. Yeah, let's take a bite.
Okay.
So
you
Mark,
want something real? Something that just came
Lynetta,
up?
what's happening?
Like
what's
the
going
biggest
on?
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what's
this is
going
the
on with
biggest.
y'all?
So we have had the biggest struggle. Every other domain in our world together is fun. We have a blast. The only biggest challenge we've had is in the bedroom.
Mm-hmm.
And just background, we've been together 10 years now. We're going on 9 years of marriage.
Yep. And I went through, the first couple of years was good. I was still I've always been very sexual, and I had a very strong appetite when I first met Mark. So the first couple of years was great, had amazing orgasms, I flood, everything. So, Mark was happy. And then menopause hit, and my sex drive went way down. So I didn't, we tried hormones and none of that was helping. And so we really recently just got down to the root of it, is because I know that I can get turned on still. I've experienced, where I get into this mood, and I can feel the energy, and I start to get excited again. So I know it still works, but but it's been a challenge because I still had hurts that were unresolved that I didn't address, and it wasn't coming up totally. And Mark would say, well, I want you to be yourself here. I can feel you're being in performance. And then I would just cry because I didn't know how to not be in performance. Because I've always wanted to, I would I would act like I'm having the best orgasm in the world, which was so deeply ingrained in me. I've been doing it so long, I didn't know how to not do it, because I wanted the man to know that he is the best lover in the world. And if I am having the most amazing orgasm, then he's going to feel really great. So I'm such a good actress. I can actually get into the role, and it even feels good. But with my hormones, I was having a good feeling, but I was exaggerating the orgasm for the man. Mm-hmm. And Mark could feel that when I would, especially when I did some how can I put this, can we say it very intimately here? Oral sex. Okay. And I was giving him what I thought was the best that I had ever, I've never had complaints in the past. And Mark's like, I'm like, you look bored, are you into this? And he's like, not feeling it. And he's like, you're performing. It feels like you're performing. You're not really being present. And I just cried because I didn't know what he was talking about. Didn't know how to be anything other than that. It had always worked before, And so I just said, I need a sabbatical. So I took a time out. And Mark told me if we never make love again, I would still want to be with you. So take all the time you need. So recently, and we've been going through this years, it's talking about 5 years of this, really going into this, and I'm leaving some stuff out. I don't want to take up too much time in the story of it, but what we have gotten to now is that I feel like he's criticizing me, and I'm afraid to even do anything because he's just going to pick me apart. That's what it felt like. Felt like it doesn't matter what I do, even if I put, myself out there, And we traced this back to an earlier event where my mom, I made the bed. I was like 6 years old. I made the bed and I was so excited to show her. It's the first time I ever tried to make my bed. And I go bring her in and she just tears it apart and remakes it. And no like acknowledging, no words. It's just like, this is how you make a bed. And it's like, oh, and I was crushed. Like, I'm like, oh, so I put my heart into it. I put my love into it and it wasn't good enough. So I better just figure out what I'm supposed to be doing that will, I got to do it the right way. And that's what I felt when I felt like he was saying, you're
not doing
you're
it
not doing it the right way. And that's just more of what I've had for years with my mother, is it was never the right way, no matter what. So I wasn't giving Mark my full heart, he wants my full presence.
Just presence. It almost doesn't matter what she does. As long as she's being fully present, that's gold. I want that more than anything.
Right.
And that's been a challenge because she got trained how to be in performance most of her life, starting with an incident, 6 years old, making a bed.
Yeah.
So it's like it affected the sexual domain with us, even though it actually has nothing to do with sex.
Yeah. And so this morning I was like letting it rip, like all kinds of stuff was coming out, that things I'd been, not holding back and hadn't fully shared of myself. And I'm like, oh, this is about life, not just in the bedroom. This is about like every area of life for me to just speak. And I've been afraid that I'd be like a bitch or, if I say some of these things that I've been thinking, but I, just started sharing with Mark, things that have been bothering me. And he's like, yeah, you're right. He's like, yeah, you're right. And I was like, oh, so maybe you really do want me to be myself, be all of me and share all of me. So, and it's like, also my heart has been so sensitive to any criticism at all. So through the years, I just shut down more and more because I was getting criticized from the kind of guys I was attracting. They were criticizing me all the time. So I just learned to shut down more and more. And now I'm starting to come out and just say it. And Mark is like, yes, that's what I want. And I'm like, even if it's messy, even if it's, sounds like a bitch, yes, I want it all. Whew.
Yeah.
How very greedy of you, Mark.
Yeah, totally. I'll own that. That's right. I want all of this woman.
Yeah. No, and I think greedy gets a bad rap. And especially when we have loving partners, greedy is just such a wonderful thing to be able to embody.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I lust over having all of this woman.
Wonderful. And I want to just say, like, how wonderful it is. Like, you're getting all the brownie points here, Mark, because what was it? If we never make love again, I would still want to be with you. Yeah.
That was the first year we were together. And I was like, it was really true. And it ended up with that we didn't have sex for about a month because she just said, I just need to redo my whole way of being about sexuality. So we just left it open-ended, and it ended up being about a month until we started to make love again. Yeah. And then that first year, like maybe a few months later, again, she said, you know what, we need to stop again. And it was like, okay, whatever. And again, it was about another month, know.
Yeah.
And yeah.
And actually, one thing I left out is that we started when I was like not reacting to not wanting sex at all. And then Mark was like, I'm really like, I still want it. And I'm like, okay. So we started going on these sites where we were meeting like lifestyle, SLS, and and we met some women that were like, oh, this is really nice, to have a woman with us. And And I was learning by watching Mark with another woman. Oh, that's how you do it. Because some of these women were, I could feel they were being real and authentic, and yeah.
Lynetta has an amazing ability to observe something and feel into it and get it.
Yeah.
Like she'll just watch something and then it's like, oh, now I get that.
Yeah.
And she had such a whacked upbringing. This is why I don't hold anything against her for, you know, the fact that she survived her family of origin is a miracle in my book with what she went through. So the fact she adapted in all kinds of weird ways, like, yeah, of course she did.
Yeah.
You just had to figure out a way to survive all that crap. So, and it's like, yeah, on a certain level, she didn't learn how to be a woman.
Yeah.
Certainly not a healthy woman from her family. Like, absolutely not. So it's like sometimes, she's observed things from others.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I get it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I felt like a kid, like I was still kind of stuck being a kid still. And I wasn't fully a woman, and I'd see how other women are sexually, like, oh, that's a woman. I could feel the woman in her, and I'm like, oh, so there must be something in my past that isn't resolved yet.
Yeah. So a question for you is this something that still presents for you?
Is what something that still presents?
So is this feeling of feeling like you need to perform or having trouble being present, is that something that still you experience today, or is this like a resolved issue?
Oh, well, I still like, Mark had asked me just this morning, is it okay that you desire something about desire? Like, is it a good thing if you desire me, or a bad thing? And I said, I just checked in and I just heard, right now I'm just digging myself out, and my focus isn't on like sexual desire right now. It's more on bringing myself out and like, oh, there's the authentic me. I'm just like trying to excavate. It feels like excavate the real me out.
And open your heart,
open
be
my heart.
more vulnerable, and like releasing the shields.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
the
literally,
honoring.
this really just came up like literally 2 days ago.
Yeah.
So this is way current for us.
Yeah. So it's fresh.
And we're still
it's fresh.
processing.
It's not like old history. This is something you're still working on.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always working on something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And both of us are like, we know it can be better than what it is right now, because every other area we're like having a blast together. But why not this area? Like, why only in the bedroom?
Why is that such a challenge, and everything else is off the charts amazing?
Yeah.
Well, how wonderful you can be in a place too where you're like, this is excellent and it could be better.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's not a value judgment. You're not saying like, oh, I'm bad, this relationship is bad. You got a challenge and you're addressing it together. And I think that's really beautiful.
Yeah. And hey, he is not like the past men I used to choose. He's a different animal, and I'm very different animal than he's used to being with. In the past, we never chose each other.
She was so not my kind of woman when I met her, and vice versa. In fact, we kind of joke like we had this meeting place. Like if she was any less of this or more of that, I would have been like, oh, hell no. And it was the same thing for her.
Yeah.
So we met at this little meeting place, like, oh, look at that. I guess we can be together.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And then I imagine that expanded. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And now I get that it's just, there's so much more depth to this relationship than I've ever had. My other relationships were very surface. Neither one of us were sharing all of the depths of ourselves. So, in this one, he wants such depth that I'm like, well, those are some of when I first met him and I looked in his eyes, every door inside of me opened because I could sense already just in the first look that he could be with all those places in me, even the doors I had locked that I didn't even want to go into. He could be with it. But then I slammed the door shut after that, and he hasn't been able to get in.
Wouldn't notice.
I thought he would notice.
But he noticed.
And now he wants me to open those doors up again. And I said, well, it could get messy. And he's like,
Bring it.
on.
I want all of you.
Yeah.
Messy and everything.
So this morning he was getting after me for, I had the laundry. We did the laundry last night and the dryer didn't get it all clean. So I had laid out my underwear outside on the table and the chairs.
Now we're in a campground. They have very strict rules, like no clotheslines. Like you have to keep your campsite pretty, clean.
Yeah.
And organized.
And this morning he's like, could you please get your underwear out? And I'm like, ooh, when I got up, I was like, okay, I could be really angry. I could get like, but I'm like, no, just get your underwear. And I put inside, but then I was like, wait a minute. You are going, every time we drive through the campground, they have a 10-mile-per-hour, rule, and they're strict about it too.
Yeah.
And you can
get in trouble.
You can get in big trouble
over the speed limit.
And he goes,
yeah.
Not sometimes, most of the time,
I'm
about
good with
90% of the time, he'll go too fast. And I'll even say, slow down. And he's even been told to slow down. And I'm like, hey, what about what you're doing? You're speeding through the campground. So he owned it.
Yep.
He owned his
okay,
yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'm being selective about the rules.
Yeah.
And that's not right.
Yeah. It's always easier to catch somebody else.
Yes.
Yeah. Just ask. Yeah. I'll leave that alone. So, okay. So I've got some questions.
Story there.
Leaving it alone.
Shucks. Next episode, we want to hear that story.
Yeah. I do share in small bites. I want to say like Lynetta, I want to bring up the possibility of maybe some rejection sensitive dysphoria, right? Because that is an experience that I personally have where like not only am I really sensitive to actual rejection, but I will also manifest or not manifest, but imagine rejection in places where it doesn't exist.
Yep.
Like,
totally get it.
I had a business partner who said, well, I have to think about that. And so didn't give a definitive answer on a particular proposal. And I was like, oh, they hate me now. And I had to take a step back and cool off and go like, that's not realistic. This person is really invested in our friendship and our business partnership. And so that may be something to look into. And rejection sensitivity can come out of some of those childhood experiences. It can come out of like having attention deficit disorder and sort of, honestly, I don't think it's a symptom. I think it's a product of having the disorder in a culture where they expect you to be normal. And so you're constantly being told you're not normal. And so you get rejected. But there can be, you can use a key, right? So you could say, okay, if I get rejected, then I need to do A, B, and C to feel okay. Right. And you could key Mark into that. And then Mark can maybe, it sounds like Mark's really sensitive. Mark can maybe even also have that key, right? So like, I need to take a walk around the block, maybe would be like the sign that, you're triggered and you're not going to be able to handle that situation as well as if you were not triggered. And for a lot of people, a walk around the block really does the job. But there's a million different ways to do it, right? So that may be something to look into. The other thing that I noticed was an issue with compassion. So compassion, it's always so much easier to be compassionate with others than it is with ourselves. It's like the cruelest part of being in a human body.
Yes.
But there was a statement of it was never the right way. Right. And that's that message. That's that it's never the right way. And there's like there's an element of acceptance there, right? And you probably have like second generation non-acceptance because
Yeah.
your mother wasn't accepting.
Yep.
She gave you this paradigm of nothing's ever good enough, right?
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And so the way to battle that is to remember that you have a story and you're in the middle of your story. And where you are in the story and how far and how fast you're going in the story is all part of that story. And if it was anything else, it would be someone else's story. Right? I can always wish I'm a step ahead or 10 steps ahead, but that's not me. Somebody else is 10 steps ahead, but I'm not there. And so if I do that, then I always have the sense I'm in the wrong place. I'm not going fast. I've always been battling personally. Again, to add the personal component, I've always had this sense that I'm not moving fast enough and it needs to be faster. And so compassion for me is remembering this is exactly the right pace that I need to be doing.
Your pace.
Yeah. This is exactly right. It's perfect. In fact, it's like I'm on some sort of destiny pathway. And if you think about the story is already written, you can't change the story. I can change how I want to act and move forward, but the story is what the story is, you know? And so that, you know, that can be like that mantra of acceptance of, you know, here I'm in the perfect place in my journey. I am going at the perfect rate in my journey. Yeah.
Yeah. And if I go back and like what I like to do is reparent my child. So I'll go back to that bed scene and say, you know, you never even had to go and try to show your mom because I'm going to give you what you really wanted to hear. And what you really needed to hear when you did that was, oh my gosh, you did amazing. I love this. I can feel all the love you put into it. It's beautiful. And then we jumped on the bed and messed it up and played, you know, and that was perfect. And my mom wouldn't know to do that. You know, that's particular to what my little girl needed to hear. So I'm the best one to go back and reparent her and give her exactly what she wanted. My mom didn't know how to play. She worked all her childhood.
Yeah.
And she never got approval from her parents. So she worked as a little girl the whole time, washing dishes and, you know, and I know her story and she never got approval. So how could she give it to me? You know, so, but a little kid, you know how kids are when they do something, they're like so proud. And they're like, Mom, Dad, come see what I did, you know?
Yeah.
And so now I give my younger self that. I reparent her and say, oh my gosh, you did awesome. I love you. You're great. You know, the way you did that bed was awesome. Yeah.
Well, and how small and insecure do you have to be to see a child with this excitement and feel like you need to stamp it out? Right. And so maybe we can have some compassion for mom too, because she must have been hurting so bad to not see the joy you had and to not be able to enjoy the joy with you. She really missed out.
Yeah. She never got to be a kid. She never got to be a kid. Yeah.
That's hard too. It's really hard to be compassionate to the people who we feel have wronged us, but in the end, it's healing. It's healing.
Yes. I can feel that. Thank you. That was very helpful. I can feel my heart soften towards my mom because that's been my nemesis is my mother.
I feel you. If you like the Ask Ezra podcast, then let me know. Comment on your favorite episode. Let us know what you enjoyed or what you'd like to see more of. The last thing I wanted to share is that I hear a lot of times, I hear this, I'm stuck in my head. And I didn't hear you say it just like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's kind of the same in a way where you're preoccupied with the narrative of what's happening as opposed to the experience of what's happening. Right?
Yeah. I'm trying to get it right. I'm trying to make sure that I take care of Mark and pleasure him. And, you know, another thing with my religious training was we were taught as there are 3 girls in my family. We were all taught that the man's pleasure, like you have to take care of him, make sure you cook. And my mom always said, make sure you cook in the bedroom, meaning make sure you take care of your man and you please him. Otherwise he will leave.
In other words, cooking in the bedroom was more important than cooking in the kitchen.
Cooking in the kitchen. Yeah.
I do like a good bedroom meal.
Well, so do we.
Yeah.
Well, I have a food
But you could both
fetish,
cook.
but
Yeah. You could take
that's
turns.
another
Yeah.
show.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so there's sort of 2 different things that can be helpful for that experience, right?
Yeah.
So one is creating a container. One is, and I'm sure you're familiar with this concept of like creating like a
that
scene or an experience,
us.
a bubble. Yeah. Well, what we can do is we can experiment with containers. Yeah. Like, I think there is the general sense of a container, like here we are, I want to be, hold space for you. This is our container. But I can also say like, okay, for the next 5 minutes, Lynetta's in charge and we're all guests. Or, for the next 5 minutes, Lynetta's at the spa and we are spa workers.
Oh,
right?
Nice.
I
like that.
You definitely
so you
like
shift
that.
the perspective, right? And so instead of being a performer, Mark is your servant, right?
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And that can give you like momentary freedom from the narrative because they don't mesh. You can't be the cook and the restaurant goer at the same time. Right. And then you can get this like situational confidence or situational freedom. And then that's like a skill that you build and then it can be transferable elsewhere. Right.
Yeah. As you were talking about that, I remembered a couple Tantra clients I had where I did primal dom and I was like, wow, I felt liberated because I was scratching and biting and growling. And I was like, ooh, I love this because it's definitely not the role that I'm used to, right? It's like opposite the role I'm used to. But I noticed the last time I was like, oh, you lost your erection. And there's something in there, I think, in my mind, like if he loses his erection, that means he lost interest in me.
Yeah, that's another narrative.
I'm curious, what do you say about that, Ezra?
Well, I mean, it's just not, it's not true. I mean, bodies go through phases, right? In moments and in seasons. And yeah, it's just not a clear indicator of a lack of interest.
What do you say about that?
Yeah. Well, to give a little background, to kind of like enlarge the issue a little bit.
Enlarge the issue. I'm sorry, I couldn't leave that alone.
Do you like that?
That was good.
The issue's fine as big as it is, Mark.
We don't need to attention.
We don't need to pump it up.
We had actually our first year a couple really amazing, I'll just call them spiritual experiences when we were just laying together, had nothing to do with lovemaking. And it almost felt like our bodies disappeared. I almost said like, wow, it's like we're becoming translucent. And we felt this like, I don't know, merging maybe. It's almost like we were touching each other's souls. I really don't know how to describe it. And it was just like, wow, like we could both feel this. And it was like, I don't even know what this is, but it's amazing. It happened twice the first year. And I've kind of had it in my mind to merge everything from the embodied sexual experience all the way up to this soul level merging, if you will. Like there must be some way to combine all of this. And that's kind of been in the back of my mind. Like, what would it be like? And I don't even know if they're just like two distinct areas of humanness that really don't overlap. Because we have this amazing closeness. I mean, we can lay in bed and talk and cuddle for hours, and it's effortless, and we love it. And we'll clear things, and we'll laugh at things, and sometimes we'll plan things, and we just have the best time just being together. So we have no problems being with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just like, and how does the sexuality work with all this? You know, it's almost like we're kind of in this inquiry of like, what's it like to combine all these different human aspects, and is that even possible?
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think my mind gets in the way because I'm trying to figure out how to make that happen, what he's wanting.
We can both be in our minds.
In
We
our
both
head.
kind of used our heads a lot to survive.
Yeah. We're both like genius level brains, beautiful brains, we call them.
We joke, yes, my beautiful brain says this, and your beautiful brain says that.
Yeah. Well, and I think it can be even harder when we are using our brains to help like quandaries and challenges that people are having. And so we sort of get conditioned to be more cerebral. And I do BDSM instruction. And then I also do BDSM performance. And then I also do like BDSM actual lifestyle experiences. And sometimes when I'm doing the BDSM actual life experience, I get stuck performing or I get stuck educating. And I'm like, that's the wrong part of my body to be using right now.
Right.
So,
Gotcha.
And I
see, you're aware.
Getting into the body.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of getting into the body, I had one more thing to add. One more, so one was creating that compartment, creating that
the container,
the boundary, the container. And the other is what I call dropping into your body. And because when we're thinking about performance or reviews or planning, that's being in the next moment or being in the last moment. It's not being in this moment.
Being in this
right?
moment.
So the challenge is how do you be in this moment?
Right.
And the answer is with your body. So what are you feeling now? Right? What is, what are you smelling? What are you tasting? What are you hearing? What are you seeing? Right? What are you feeling on your skin?
Yeah.
And those are all going to bring you into your body, bring your awareness into your body.
Even while you're talking about it, I feel like, it's like, fine, the mind rests, and then there's just sensation, feeling.
And we have awareness. We have awareness all the time. That is the condition of existence.
Yeah.
But where is our awareness? And to what degree can we shift our awareness? Yeah. And then what is the awareness of the awareness, right?
Ooh, that's deep. Awareness of the awareness.
I'm aware that's very deep.
Yeah, get even deeper. What's the awareness of the awareness of the awareness? The secret is it's turtles all the way down.
Yes. Yeah. And actually, for us, that's a great suggestion because we could both use more of that presence.
Yeah.
And a little less thinking. You're 100% on target.
You're spot on.
Yeah.
That's great coaching.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just mindfulness, and it's not a rare issue. It's so common.
Yeah. And my beautiful brain says you need to do more of that, honey.
Well, no, that's really helpful what you just said. Is that, yes, thank you. He's got a great sense of humor. It's really helpful to hear other people have this challenge.
Yeah.
For me to hear that, because sometimes I think this is just me, a me issue, and I'm all alone in this, and then I don't share it because I'm embarrassed by it. So to hear that other people have this challenge, and I often say if just one person hears my challenge and it helps them, I'm willing to share all my darkest, deepest secrets, because I'm here to help other people, and I just want to be able to help other people be empowered. And maybe somebody listening right now is going, oh my God, she's telling my story.
Okay, I've got a weird exercise for you.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Just hazard a guess for me. What percentage of your time do you spend stuck in your head? We're not going to test for rightness, so any answer is fine.
I think in our relationship, are you talking about like in our relating to each other?
Just how about your time in your body? How often do you feel like you get stuck in your head when you'd rather be in your body?
Well, I'll give you a percentage, but it's not stuck in our heads, because it's not like we find that to be a problem because we love the stuff we do together, including using our heads. But if you just want me to throw out a number, I'd probably say at least 85%.
Yeah. That's what I heard, about
85%.
80%.
Yeah, because we're always planning stuff,
Okay.
and talking about stuff.
Well,
Yeah.
let's rephrase it. When is it that, what percentage of time are you stuck in your head that it's a problem? 8%, 1%?
I think just in the bedroom. Really?
I would probably say literally if it's overtly sexual, like literally only then.
Only then.
Because, well, there's a difference between Lynetta and me. For me, when I'm touched, my head shuts off immediately.
All I have to do is like
all she has to do,
right now,
like, yeah,
put my hand on his heart.
And
wonderful.
I'm
I'm jealous.
He's in.
Yeah, or sometimes I'll like roll over so my back's towards her, and she'll just start scratching or rubbing my back, and I'm just like, and my brain is gone instantly.
Okay.
Now, Lynetta is not that way.
No.
In fact, because of her past and unfortunately some of the torturous games her dad did with her with touch, when I touch her, it's almost like her brain is like, is this safe? Is this safe? Is that, like, what's going on here? And she's actually said to me, the 5 love languages, obviously, that like she needs words from me to know that my touch is safe.
It's safe. Yeah.
And genuine. So we're like total opposites regarding that. My mind shuts off. Hers is not.
And words for him were dangerous in his childhood.
Right. Yeah. Words would be used against me. So I don't trust words at all. But touch, I actually did get loving touch from my mom. So that like just puts me into a state.
He trusts it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me just go with this thought experiment for a second, right? Let me just say arbitrarily, you got 1% of your life where you're thinking and you wish you were feeling, right?
Okay, sure.
And I think everybody has that. Okay. There are 8 billion people on the planet, 7 billion, something in between, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so 1% means that at any given moment, if everybody's feeling this on that same level, if you're, quote unquote normal, that's 80 million people at any given moment feeling that, right? And so even if that's 80 times more than what's really happening, even if let's say, there's 80 times less, that's still 1 million people at any given moment.
Wow.
So while you're there in your body, struggling to be in your body, there's 1 million other people across the globe having the same experience.
Challenge. Yeah.
You'd not alone.
So you're saying we should all hang out together? Or we should do a giant cuddle party? Like
it's a big hotel room.
Let's do a cuddle
banquet room.
Yeah.
And we can go, you need to get out of your head. And you'll go, no, you need to get out of your head. We could have a blast.
We really could. Solve some world challenges, I think, if we could all get naked together.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. A lot of coconut oil.
Huh? Make love, not oil. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I do. I like that. I have a little bit of envy for the bonobo chimps and their conflict resolution styles of touching genitals.
Yeah.
Imagine if you get in a fight with somebody, you go like, all right, it's over. Time to touch dicks. Just tap. Just a little tap.
Yeah, I think everybody needs to learn that difference between chimpanzees and bonobos. I mean, when I learned that, I was like, wow. And to us human beings, they look almost identical. Yeah. And it's literally just the societal organization. And it makes all the difference in the world in how they live their lives. I was like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was amazing. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, fantastic. It was absolute pleasure to chat with you. Thank you so much for your vulnerability and for showing up and sharing your challenge.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing.
Thank you.
And some of your recommendations. We'll definitely try them out.
Yes.
If we can get Lynette out of her head.
Yeah. Well, and do what feels right. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, all the suggestions in the world, but but do what feels right to you. So
Yes.
What's coming up is to do some yoga before we make love, because I get into my body when I do yoga.
Absolutely. Yeah, using your body. Well, thank you so much. It's a pleasure having you. If somebody wants to get a hold of you, what can they do?
So the soulmatecoaches.com is our website. And right on there, if they'd like, we'll do a free 20-minute
breakthrough call.
They can just schedule right on the calendar, and we'll chat and see if there's some way we can be in service to them.
You'll get something. They'll get some freedom out of the call. We promise that.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Thanks for watching the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast. Support our show at patreon.com/AskEzra. Join us at the personal growth tier and receive a special thank you on the next podcast episode. A very special thank you to both Sarah Nash and Deb Matson for being Patreon supporters at the personal growth tier and helping make the Ask Ezra Intimacy Coaching Podcast possible.